We're here for those people behind us that can't do what we can do now. God says where two or more are gathered in his name, he's with us. And everyone knows this prayer, so hearts to God, let's just go. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So what we just did is we asked Lord to bring his kingdom on earth. He is just, he is loving, and nothing done will not be attended to. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Beautifully said. Many Australians have lost trust in our governments. The parliamentary, judiciary and law enforcement systems are failing to protect and defend Australians from the overreach at all levels of government. Decisions made in our parliaments by sitting and former members have all but handed over our nation to unelected international globalist organisations such as the United Nations, the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum, whose stated goals are to control the masses and depopulate the planet. Lisbon, Portugal is the epicentre of the global event today, and a number of international freedom advocates gather as the Bilderberg Group meet. The WHO, the World Health Organization, also met this week at a separate location. These globalist organisations push repugnant ideology, including Agenda 2030, where we will own nothing and be happy. We send this message to all those that seek to control us. We see you, we know your plans. We are many, we 200. Yay. There are 200 such events happening throughout the world today. And about 1:30, we will have a live stream worldwide into the event all over the world, which is pretty exciting. So Rocky will be well and truly on the world stage. I'm Pamela, and welcome to Rockhampton, Australia. Thank you for showing Stand United. Our speakers have a clear, strong and positive message to help us with practical avenues to move us what we are able to help ourselves and others to create the future we choose. We're at Rocky. Our first speaker has always had a connection to community, being a veteran firefighter of more than 22 years on the Gold Coast. Des also managed his own business throughout his fiery career to make ends meet and support his family. He tells me he has been a tin foil hat wearing gloves to race his FJ Holdens in nostalgic Sedan Speedway. 3.5 years ago, Des together with Des Hopkins, Kevin Rankin and every second Sunday to help us understand our Constitution and our rights. Des has never missed a Sunday in all that time. They also, in addition and by Saturday events around Queensland in the last year, taking time away from their families to help us. Des does all of this voluntarily while holding down a full-time and wisdom as we make our way through what have that wisdom with us today. Please welcome Des.
Thank you, Pamela. I appreciate the introduction. I'll just get my notes out. I really do appreciate that. Probably should have been up here a little bit earlier. So, first of all, thank you everyone for coming. And most of all, thank you very much for we are most certainly ready for what's coming. We've certainly been ready in the background for the events of the last 3 years. So welcome everyone to what is our to voice our opinions on whether it be government issues or local issues. And as Pamela mentioned before, on what the unconscious government or the narrative at the time. So effectively, can anyone tell us, now obviously no one's going to answer that, but I'm going to let you know. Some people here will know. You're standing on the land of the Imperial Crown, whether we like it or not, no matter what our opinion is. At law, we're standing here. Unfortunately, due to the current situation and the globalist agenda, if you'd like to call it that, we've been branded as Australian citizens, and what people don't, there's a couple of different jurisdictions that we'll probably talk about a little bit later, but for today, what I'd like to cover is, part of that process is you've got a referendum that'll be coming up shortly in relation to, I'm going to go into the actual politics of that and what the voice is actually all about, but what people don't realise is that oh, sorry, Richard, can you just grab those? Thanks, mate. I should have put them in laminate. What people don't realise in that decision that you guys are apparently supposed to make with this referendum is that you're dealing with a couple of different constitutions, and most people don't realise that federally you've got two constitutions. The first and primary constitution, of course, is this 1900-1901 constitution, where in that preamble it mentions all of us, the shareholders in the company of the Commonwealth, as living men and women. So what we do have here, and the constitution that people don't realise they'll be voting on, is actually the 2001 constitution, which has had the preamble removed out of it and effectively removing the living men and women out of that constitution. So this brochure here effectively, the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900, whereas the people hold one share each. So we are, individually, we are shareholders in the Commonwealth. And what people don't realise, Australia became a nation on the 1st of January 1901. That's when we become a federation. And so what that did was it gave us our individual states, whether it be Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales, Western Australia. So under that constitution, the people are the constitution, and the constitution governs the public service. And you'll see on that brochure that we've handed out, and it's only in small writing, but if you actually have a look at that constitution, it's actually meant for the public service or the governance of that public servant, public servants. So that they're going to have you believe that the referendum is going to be placed under. The 2001 constitution does not have a proclamation, it does not have a de jure Commonwealth. So every Crown Minister, Senator and Member of the House of Representatives, MHRs inside the Commonwealth Parliament must subscribe an oath and affirmation of allegiance as per scheduled. And you'll see on that, and I won't bore you with reading that oath and affirmation out, but that is the prescribed affirmation. Anthony Albanese and anyone else that's employed as an MP in this country, they're swearing their allegiance to a foreign crown and a foreign government and a foreign constitution. So it's quite clear in our constitution, swears their allegiance to a foreign government or a foreign crown or a foreign entity, that they're committing treason. And under the 1914 Crimes Act, which still stands today, that the punishment for treason still stands, and I won't go into what that is. So effectively, in this referendum that is going to be coming up, and we have it on good authority, very, very good authority, that the treaties have already been signed in the background. So this illusion of a referendum and the illusion of truth under the Constitution that they were trying to tell you is not what you see in front of you. It is not. I want to vote yes in this Constitution. I'm not coming from a political point or a political view. I am apolitical. I have no political alliances whatever. Whatever. So at the end of the day, think long and hard about what you're doing, because we know that if you vote yes for this, it is against what the true elders of this country want, because they're awake, they're aware or conscious, so to speak, for want of a better word. They are aware of exactly what is transpiring in the background. But be assured, it's already been done. You only have the appearance that you'll be voting in a referendum. So that's basically what I wanted to cover there. You'll also see on the back of this brochure, Pamela, anyone tell me how much time I've got left? I'm happy to keep talking about this stuff, but I'm trying to keep on point here. So effectively, the colony of Queensland was erected from the New South Wales. So I don't know if anyone knew that, but Queensland came out of New South Wales, and we formed the 1867 Constitution Act for Queensland, and for New South Wales. So we've got our own constitution here in Queensland also. So not only federally do we have a constitution, but each state has their own constitution. What happens is they create a parallel, because they can't work under the constitution, the 1901 constitution, where you and I actually have a say and keep them in line. They create their own. So that's what they did federally with the 2001 Australian constitution. So some people are aware that the burgundy coloured constitution is our de jure constitution, and they call the green snot version, the 2001, has replaced our original constitution. So all of the states also have their own constitutions, but what people don't realise, Peter Beattie turned around and created his own. So we've got the Queensland constitution that was formed in 2001 by Peter Beattie. It's actually a private constitution. You and I aren't in there. We're not in that constitution. Votes, and what people don't realise, when you go to the polling booth, and I mean any polling booth in Australia, any polling booth, you're actually committing treason against the Commonwealth, because unless you're a member of a political, and that's how it works. So these constitutions that they're trying to put in front of you, they're asking you to vote in their private system. And the reason why the Electoral Commission fines you is not because you didn't vote, it's because you didn't allocate the $2.78 or the $3 to the candidate in your area. That's how it works. So effectively what we're saying is the 1867 Constitution here in Queensland. New South Wales has its own constitution, along with South Australia, Western Australia, Victoria, Northern Territory. So unless you know your history and where all this stuff starts from, you've got no way of actually defending yourself or going again or starting a coming for you. And as Pamela mentioned before, the Agenda 21-2030 is going to be implemented. We're going to try and implement it whether you like it or not. It is coming. But as long as you stand on the land of the Crown as a British subject, and a lot of you might go, well, you know, that's coming back to the monarchy and all that sort of stuff, but at law, that's where your safety net. Just remember, if you become a republic, you, as an individual, takes on the debt of the private political parties. They own the debt. We do not own the debt. Country do not own the debt. It's the private political parties. And we can go into who actually owns who and that if you like. We can have a private conversation about it, or you're welcome to come down to the Anti-Corruption Academy classroom every second Sunday. We have an open classroom for people, and we also have a national Zoom meeting at the same time. And you can get some information in relation to that later. You'll see that I've made up too, if you haven't had a look at them yet, and some people might not understand what it's all about, but I've made up some, what do you call sandwich boards, I guess you call them, that you can put over your shoulder. And actually, my these out for me, and I just sort of made them up. But have a bit of a read of it. Have a bit of a read and see what it says. This has all got to do with your constitutions, and if you don't, you'll be imprisoned, you'll be fined, and there's quite a few people looking at now going through exactly that. Exhibit A, and I won't point to them directly, but Exhibit A to my left, he's a pain in the arse to the system. But at the end of the day, read what they're saying, read the placard, read what it says, right? We do not have a police force in our country. We don't have police forces in our state, right? What you do, what you have, and then you ask, okay, where do you come from? Do you have an ABN number? If you do, you're in deep shit because you're not one of mine. You do not belong on my land. You do not belong. Read that one there, warrant card. Ask the question, do you have a warrant card? If you don't have one, you are an unlicensed court decision. Monty versus DPP. It states you must have a warrant card. Right? If you don't have a warrant card, therefore you come under the Foreign Agent Registration Act of 1938 as an agent. Therefore, every day before you start your little tiny, whether it be a candy car or whether it be a little tiny blue and white car, but before you start that, you must, under Section 7 of that US law, it's all through the Securities Exchange Commission in the US vehicle. But before they turn the key, they must fill out that. And if you request it on the side of the road, they're not going to give it to you. They're not going to give it to you because they're going to place you into a bail condition. They're going to do all of these things. But it all comes back to your constitutions and knowing about which one is ours and which is a lie. Okay? So what I'm saying is, when it comes to this referendum, just think of the matrix. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. So with that, I should probably close. If there's anything else you think that you'd like to talk about, we're very lucky to have Carl Liebold here today, and we'll hand this over to Pam, and he can sort that out. I can, or momentarily, I will. Said that we need to talk about the petition of right. Well, that's for, I do appreciate that, Dave. It is a conversation for another time because it goes into why you are a British subject and a single shareholder of the Commonwealth. It's a very, very important document. And if you want to learn about that, I will talk about it. I won't speak into this forum because we're going to come and see us. I'll just say, at law, it is your only lawful avenue to place a matter on the King's bench to remove the assumption that you're an Australian citizen not under the Australian Citizenship Act. If you don't remove the assumption in that act, you are statute neutral gender / a thing. It's in their Citizenship Act. That you're not an Australian citizen and come back to the imperial land of the Crown as a British national, under the British Nationality and Citizenship Act, well then they will contract with you through that Australian Citizenship Act, and that's exactly how it works. But we'll cover that a bit later on. I'll hand you back to Pam.
Thank you, Des. Des has so much knowledge. He just blows me away. People that have the knowledge that they impart to us. I just hope one day I'll get there, but I do follow all their directions. Thanks, Des. John is not the next speaker. We're going to have to do at this point in time is to acknowledge the man who is working tirelessly behind the scenes today. He walks so much. We say thank God he has the gift of the gab, as his career turned to radio. Announcer in the early 80s at 3HA, moving to 4CC and Rockhampton. He's done outdoor broadcast trial. He found the truth buried obscurely in our stories and report what he chooses for the love of freedom. If you want to say g'day to Carl, he always welcomes you to beam us across Australia and the world. Thank you so much, Carl.
Welcome.
We love you. I'd now like to introduce a man who's not actually present with us here today, and we are going to hear the recording of him that Carl has put together. When you watch this back on your computers or your phones or your tablet on this gentleman, his name is Darren Bergworth, and he's a tradie. He's a builder who stepped back from his thriving business and give a true voice back to the people. After his final run at the Victorian election, he knew his role was to effect change, support people of My Place Australia group. So successful is the My Place experience that it has flourished to a point where Darren now heads up
Important that we all stand together now and we bring everybody in Rockhampton together under one umbrella and hopefully start at My Place, but certainly whatever groups you've got, get them together. Hopefully start at My Place, but certainly whatever groups you've got, get them together. The country at the moment got 139 groups, I think, now in Australia, and we're really starting to push back and have a big impact on the powers to be. So yeah, really important, guys, that you come together and connect with all the other big towns in Queensland. We've got about 35 and you know, we're going to start doing these rallies you know, at least every 2 or 3 weeks down here in Frankston moving forward, and we're going to be right in their face community shortly. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, and have a really good day, and make some good connections, and
Thank you, Darren. He's an inspirational man, friends in his region who know him very well, and what they're doing down there is really a blueprint for what we can do here. I state publicly that none of our guest speakers have asked for or received any payment, and appear today to share their knowledge and commitment for the community, and commitment for the love of freedom and rebuilding our community. Having said that, there have been significant costs incurred in ensuring you both see and hear our speakers today, as we have hired additional equipment over and above what Carl has so graciously provided. If you would like to kick in a few dollars to offset those costs, we would be most grateful, and you will see some little containers with donations on them at some point throughout the rest of the day. I am just so pleased to introduce our next guest. Our final speaker is admired and applauded by many as a man willing to call it as he sees it. He pulls no punches and spares no wrath. Media profile, despite being black banned and censored on almost every social media platform. As a result of the reach of some of his posts, there have been hundreds of thousands of views. These have been shared on many social media channels, and he has captured the interest of many ordinary Australians. John Wilson is the only national Australian trade union figure, a former president of Trades Hall in Canberra, to have stepped up publicly to rail against the United Nations, the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organisation and their Agenda 2030. John has served as President, Trades Hall Council, Canberra, for 3 years, 1990 to 1993, Secretary of the CFMEU in Canberra for 6 years, from 87 to 93. He was the Legal Officer and Industrial Officer, Commonwealth Public Service Union in Canberra, and the Legal Officer, Industrial Officer, Federated Clerks Union in Queensland. John is retired and fully committed to contributing towards Australia's efforts to regain her sovereignty and rebuild our country. It gives us very great pleasure to welcome you, John.
Thank you very much, Rockhampton and surrounds, Yeppoon and all you regional people that have come here today. Some of you aren't local, you've driven in. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to get an invite to come up and participate in today's meeting, today's gathering. It's great. I don't get invites to speak publicly at any of these protest movements, any of them, right? I was invited to come to one in Brisbane once, and then the event organiser down there said I was a conspiracy theorist and they didn't want me. In a real journey. As the only national trade union person who of any standing, I mean, there's literally been not one word said over the last 3-4 years by one single person inside the trade union movement, whilst thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have lost their jobs, being force-faxed, being stood over, being blacklisted off transport systems and health systems and all the rest of it. That the great Australian trade union movement that I bled for, my father and brothers and sisters, I mean, my father's a life member of the Maritime Union, my brother's life member of the Firefighters Union. Despite all of this history that we've put into the trade union movement, along with millions and millions of other working class Australians, what we have witnessed is the wholesale betrayal. The wholesale betrayal. The entire trade union movement is now a captive operation. They are now a captive operation of overseas forces. George Soros Open Society Foundations now own all of it. They now own all of it, okay? And they've pulled a betrayal which is in scale, it's just unbelievable. They betrayed millions of us. What have we learned in the last 3 years, mate, is we've learnt what betrayal feels like. Because we've been betrayed by government, we've been betrayed by our medical people, we've been betrayed by our unions, our churches have betrayed us. We've been betrayed by a single institution in this country. I've watched as this whole agenda was rolled out, and as, you know, appeal after appeal was undertaken to different institutions to get them to discharge their duties and offer protections, only to see them turn their back on us. Not one of them did their job. Not one of them honoured their oath. Not one of them offered any shelter. The Australian people were laid bare to be slaughtered by Big Pharma and all of those traitors and evil monsters that hitch their wagons to them, not just one vax, but vax after vax after vax after vax. These people are monsters, mate. This is not incompetence. This is not just stupidity. These people are monsters, to the point now where we've got people needing life-saving organ transplants to be denied if they haven't got the vaxes. I mean, I'll just turn it. It's not just power and all that. These monsters hate our existence. They hate our existence. They hate families. They hate our children, and they hate us. And I've come to the sort of conclusion after years of trying to work it through and reason with things that there's really no other way to deal with this anymore. We are dealing with unfathomable evil. Unfathomable evil. And it wasn't until only 3 or 4 years ago that I've ever used the word evil. I've never used it before in the general vernacular, but there's no other way of describing these forces who are doing whatever they can through, poisons, through 5Gs, through, all this, lockdowns and force and brutality that they're... 2 days ago, in a aged care facility in Cooma, New South Wales, owned by the local council, a 95-year-old woman who's got a dementia problem, grabbed a kitchen knife of some description. 2 big burly New South Wales police officers went in there, and somehow this elderly lady posed a threat to them, and so they tasered her. 2 big burly New South Wales police officers tasered a 95-year-old woman. She hit the deck and now she's going to die. We have deteriorated beyond comprehension. We have, I can't believe, I've already been through the grieving process on the betrayal. I've grieved enough over it. I've now come to terms with it, and I now accept that we're on our own, right? I've now arrived at that. And it's from that point that I can see the reorganisation, the organic reorganisation, the organic regrouping that's going on. And communities finding their feet and finding their way, and this is what's happening in Rocky right now. I can see this happening, and I can see those local people, you can see them coming up, you can see them providing leadership, advice, support, guidance, and all of that, and they're all pitching in, and you can see this growing all over Queensland again, because this is the only way we're going to survive. We only have ourselves to depend on, okay? We only have ourselves to depend on. It's our tribe, and you're it. Pretty much the people here, out of all of Rockhampton, most of you are here. So, we're up against, we've got our back up against the wall, but there's been some recent news, recent developments brought to my attention, only a couple of months old, that has changed my perspective, and let me walk you through some of that. There was a guy called Derek Johnson, a United States young guy, ex-military guy, and he's got a specific skill, and the specific skill is military laws, military orders, military protocols, and also presidential orders, President Trump's presidential orders, the executive orders. And he's pieced together evidence which now suggests very clearly, that there is a global military alliance that is in play, and they are in play to take down the global crime syndicates that are lining us up for the Agenda 2030 agenda, okay? In all of that time, because I don't carry this expertise, but in all that time and millions of views, I have not seen his evidence and his analysis debunked. He's said all out detail in those interviews, and I'd urge everyone to have a good look at that. We are not on our own. If you believe that there are unfathomable, then you must believe that there are also very good forces out there. You must believe that. You must. And there are. There are. And those good forces, those taking down these control systems. These control systems, ancient Vatican control systems, ancient royal family control system, ancient, crime syndicate control system. So I've had, again, my experience of we've had 3 years of hell, 3 years of hopelessness, 3 years of stress, trauma, and we've been put through the greatest psychological warfare that's ever been inflicted on a population in human history. That's what we've just been through for a little while there. But now they are running out of gas. They do not, this cabal, these crime syndicates do not have the horsepower to run over the top of us, and they do not have the gas in the tank to outlast us. And so their agenda is now collapsing. Their agenda is now collapsing. You're seeing it. You are now seeing it. You are seeing the vax agenda collapse. You are seeing exposures take place. You're seeing their global warming fraud narrative collapse. They're trying to revive it, but that's falling in a heap. You are seeing their being taken off them, and you can see them losing control all over the world on key institutions. And this is largely or centrally attributable to a global coalition of military forces, and these forces are godly forces. They're on the side of humanity, and they're on the side of us, and they're at war with these evil bastards. You need to read Quiet Wars. You need to read, the protocols of the elders of Zion. You need to read, these other sources of information which tells you they've been doing to us for eons. Okay, for generation after generation after generation. These secret societies, these blood oaths, these bloodline families, these central bankers. I mean, these people have been causing pain and suffering to humanity. They're being brought out in the open, and you're going to bear witness to all of this stuff. There's a lot of evil that we are going to bear witness to, and a lot of exposure to come. Okay, it's been tough so far, and I know we've got a bit more to go, but I can assure you we are going to see this out and not them. Okay, so be aware of that. Be aware. I'm aware that things like the Patents Office, which has been used for generations to suppress and hide new technology, fuel, and all sorts of sciences, physics, and other discoveries. They hide it from us. They keep it away from us. They lock it away. And they use the Patents Office. They use this legal terminologies and legal, instruments to deny the advancement of the population and the people. Okay? Well, that is going to be opened up. That's going to be torn open. There's going to be, as I understand it, thousands of new releases or thousands of releases of new technologies, new sciences, everything that's going to come back to the people. We're going to see great advancement in the human race, and we're going to find out. I mean, this great awakening that's going on, half of this great awakening is it's external. It's sort of finding out what's been going on around us. Finding out our history and finding out, what these people have been doing to us. But the other half of this great awakening is internal. It's discovering who we are and discovering just how divine we are, that we are a creation of God, we're God's children, and we have a great sense of purpose, and there's a lot more to us. We are just not useless eaters, okay? And that's what this cabal is terrified of. I mean, I've had people tell me that they're terrified, that the cabal are terrified because we're going to find out what they've done. And I said, no, the cabal are terrified because they're going to find out. They're terrified of us finding out just who we are. Just who we are. I mean, we've been sold this bloody picture of ourselves, and we've all been deceived. Okay, but we are divine creatures. We're going to win this war. They don't have the force power. They don't have the horsepower. We're going to win this war. I want to just a couple of people. I want to thank Brother Desrow, who was up here earlier. I want to thank Darren Bergworth, who's doing all the My Place. I want to thank Chair Pamela, the chairperson of today, and Richard, our great pilot transport guy. Carl, of course, down there. Carl's got a face just made for radio. It wasn't good enough for TV. It wasn't good enough for TV, but it was good enough for radio. So, but I want to thank Carl also out doing a lot of the support stuff. But most of all, I want to thank all of you guys out there. Okay, thanks for welcoming me in. It's been a great journey. I now consider many of you people family of mine. You're part of my extended family. I bleed and grieve when you go through your hardship. When we get to our victories, you're going to see me right up partying up front line. Okay, stay well. Thank you everybody for the invite again. Thank you, Pamela, and invite me back again, because I don't get invites to come and speak to people. Okay, thank you again. Okay, thank you.
You are always welcome here. We love you. You're inspiring. Before we let John go, yay! It's come to our attention that there is a motion that needs to be put to this gathering and voted on. John Wilson has the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everyone here in the last 3-4 years, at every protest in Australia, not one decision, not one motion has ever been moved, ever, by anyone. So we've had millions and millions of people protesting and everything else, and never once has a decision adopted. Okay, I'll tell you now, I can't believe this. Okay, but to remedy that, I'd like to move this motion, move John Wilson. And the motion is basically this in two parts, very simple, it's not a radical motion. And the motion is that this gathering of Rockhampton freedom fighters fully endorses and supports the call to action by today's events organisers. Now that call to action is the one that was published by Pam. It's this one here that went out, the notice. That we support that call to action, and we adopt it, we're behind that. So that's the first part. And the second part is B, that this gathering of Rockhampton freedom fighters authorises, that you give authority to, you authorise the organisers of the event to call another Rockhampton People's Assembly if developments or new information comes to hand which warrants a report and public assembly. Okay? And that's an authority. It just simply says that we've adopted this call to action, we've adopted it, and secondly, that if the organisers of if they become aware that something is going on in Rockhampton and they believe you guys need to know, that you give them the authority to call another meeting and talk about it and decide on it. Myself, Madam Chair.
I was just going to ask if somebody would second that motion. Thank you very much. Thank you. All those in favour of the motion, please show your hands.
Aye.
All those against? I declare the motion carried. Thank you, Rockhampton. Thank you, John. As we close, I'm not sure what the time is. Someone give me
1
o'clock. We will be running around the place, live streaming and showcasing Rockhampton on the world stage. A live event worldwide, shown for over 200 events worldwide. So make us proud, Rocky. We acknowledge everyone who has contributed to the event today. That includes you out there who've made it your mission to be involved. We thank Olivia and her crew from the Stand in the Park Rockhampton for the Forest of the Fallen, along with, it's all happening here today, along with the Stand in the Park crew from Yeppoon, and Melissa from my place, Yeppoon, Susie. Thank you so much. We thank Capricorn, Safe Living, the Anti-Corruption Academy, thank you Des again, Capricorn Conscious Community, Freedom Warriors, Unite in White Emu Park, Andy for the stage, and I've got to thank you, Trish Pearce. Thank you for driving all night to get back here. We love you, Trish, and Trish was intrinsic in getting the Forest of the Fallen printed. Thank you so much. So Andy for the stage and every person who helped set up and will assist in setting down. And the Billawheeler contingent over here in Ian Wells, who's been live streaming all day, and a bit later on he's going to do an open mic for topics as well as interviews, so you can have a chat with Ian over here a bit later if you would like to do that. If I haven't mentioned you, honestly, this is a team effort. So many people involved today. We're getting music in the background. Karen Valcom Audio is Ian's internet radio station, is that correct? Beautiful. So I end with, we are many, we are united, we are ready. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's freaking awesome. You're in a better spot down there.